Welcome, everybody, to this evening. We're so glad you came out. We're very excited about our meeting tonight. We have a Senior of the Month again. So that's always exciting. Could we have someone? Oh, well, we need a roll call first.
Okay. Mrs. Bowley,
Here,
Mr. Munoz, Mrs. Stewart Campbell, Dr. Bonebrake. Here. Mrs. Schmidt is absent, Dr. Schumacher, and Mr. Tatum. Here. Thank you.
it is time for our Pledge of Allegiance. I was wondering if maybe our Senior of the Month would help lead us, get us started.
And Ms. Bowley, if we may, if the Senior of the Month could also be joined, see the college prep, they kind of were ready for the pledge tonight as well. So if they can join, but it's perfect. The Senior of the Month, looking dashing, even on Zoom. My goodness, can you come on up, sir? And all of you all can stand. And so our Senior of the Month, if he can come to the microphone. And along with students that are his peers, that are his younger peers, they will all kind of join in unison for the pledge. Sir, we'll turn it over to you to get us started.
I pledge allegiance to the
To the flag of the United States of America, and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, that has to be the most creative pledge we've ever had between young people on Zoom on a college trip and a senior who they're looking up to, who they want to be like. So that's good stuff. Ms. Bowley, we'll turn it back over to you.
It's so exciting. You're coming from Washington, D.C.?
No, ma'am. We're in Chicago at the Innovative School Summit. Yes, they've been at colleges all week. And when you're done with highlights, and that last highlight, our young people, I believe a representative wants to share what they've been doing today and follow up to that pledge a little bit later.
Can't wait. Okay, we need a motion to adopt our agenda. Dr. Schumacher?
I move the board adopt the agenda as presented.
Can I have a second, please? We got several. Mr. Munoz? May we have a vote, please?
Vote is open. Thank you. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
So now we are at our school highlights, a really exciting part for all of the board members. Dr. Anderson, what do you have for your school highlights this month? This meeting?
Yes, ma'am. And Dr. Gray's going to come on up to the microphone and he will kick us off. We're going to start with the video of our Senior of the Month. So we'll let that play. And then Dr. Gray will be at the microphone to call up the Topeka West administration and student.
Hi, my name is Jaden Patterson, and I'm a senior at Topeka West. Soccer is my main thing right now, and then I'm also on the golf team, Link Crew, Spirit Club, Leader, and just trying to make my high school experience fun.
Jaden is a charismatic kid that is truly the face of Topeka West High School. He's involved in so many different things. I think any teacher you ask that's had him in class would say he's definitely a great student and a great addition to their class.
It's been inspiring. Jaden's one of those kids that you can give him something to do and he will lead others to join him. I think he inspires his peers to do better, to be better, and he is probably one of my strongest leaders.
He does tours around the school. He goes to after school events. He is always in the front row leading chants and cheers, making sure that everybody is getting the team hype and everything like that. He's always out there and always supporting everybody.
I always pride myself on leadership and then getting involved, and I just like to interact with people and help them in any way I can and kind of just be an ally, someone that people can come to whenever they need to.
He just brings that leadership piece where others follow. They truly like him as an individual, but also because he's bringing good ideas and bringing positive reinforcements to everything he's doing.
And I love seeing him work with his peers. He has this way of getting people to work together as a team it makes me proud. It makes me so proud to know him.
He is a great face for the school. He's a really just upbeat, positive person. He has things that he wants to do. He sets his mind to them and gets them done. He's a very happy, positive, goal-oriented kid, and it's good for him to be out here.
After high school, I'm undecided where I want to go. I've applied to multiple schools and still going to apply to some, but I want to study aviation and become a commercial airline pilot. I've loved planes. I took my first plane ride when I was 3, so I've just been hooked, and I'm still that kid that looks out the window at planes that just take off and land.
He's a good human. I think that's what's really important, is that he is a fantastic human. It's one of those, like, I know in the future I'm going to see him and I'm going to be like, yes, that kid. That was one of my kids.
Whenever I'm giving a tour to whether it's an 8th grade shadow or a new student on campus and their parents, I want to make sure I highlight the best things about TWS and why. And you don't have to be as involved as I am, but just try to get involved as much as you can, because it will make your high school experience fun, because it does go by really fast.
That is incredible.
And hearing just an incredible human as Dr. Gray comes to that microphone is probably the first time I've heard a person say he's just an incredible human. So again, we congratulate you. Dr. Gray, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson and Board of Education. We're so excited tonight about our Senior of the Month. Again, we want to say congratulations. I know Mr. Buckendorf, he got stuck in a little traffic, so he should be coming in shortly. But again, we just want to take time to just honor this incredible Senior of the Month from Topeka West. And we're going to ask if he would come up. I know that the board may have questions from seeing the video. By that time, I'm sure that Mr. Buckendorf will be out of traffic and will be walking in the door. But again, we're going to ask if you would just come up, acknowledge who's with you, and then I'm sure that the Board of Education will have some questions for you.
And as you come up, we will put on the screen, and that's the first time you've seen that video. So let me tell you, that video is going to debut tonight. So we have 13,000 followers. And so 13,000 people, along with, it'll be on our cable channel. So everybody in Shawnee County will be hearing about what an amazing human you are. Additionally, with that, we have a certificate that we'll be giving to you tonight after Mr. Buckendorf comes. And don't tell him you already know, but he bought you a little something as well. So you'll be getting a gift from him when he comes this evening. On the screen is a certificate that you'll be getting upon leaving this evening. I will turn it over to Madam President, who will be asking you some questions after you introduce your parents first.
All right, so with me, I have my mom, Erin Bargman, my dad, AJ Patterson, and my grandparents, Brenda Patterson, and my grandpa, Richard Patterson.
All right, Ms. Boley, I'll turn it over to you, Madam President, to entertain questions, and then we'll go from there.
Does anybody have any questions for this good human? Dr. Bonebrake.
Yes, I have a good friend whose son is a commercial airline pilot right out of college. And I'd like to put you two in communication with one another. So I'd like your contacts, how to get a hold of you and get the two of you together and see what, because he loves what he's doing.
I would love that. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Well, like Dr. Bonebrake, I was going to tell you, I have a friend who flies for Southwest Airlines.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and my son is thinking of becoming a commercial airline pilot. So we Zoomed with him recently. He said he loves mentoring future pilots.
Well,
So
that'd be
I
really
want your
cool.
information also.
Yeah, okay.
So we could just share information. And so that was that part. And I also wanted to tell you that I've seen you before on the soccer field. I've been to
Yes.
some Topeka West soccer
Yeah.
games. So that's very exciting. And my question is, if you can think over the years before Topeka West, like when you were in middle school and in elementary school, any teachers just like stand out who you remember? I know they were all great, but like anyone in particular that you happen to have strong memories of?
That is a really hard question because I've had a lot of really great teachers throughout the years, like way before high school even.
Mhm.
I would have to say that is a really hard one, actually.
You could do all of them.
Probably the one that jumps to my head first is Miss Schumann. She's my kindergarten teacher from Whitson. That's where I went. So she just had a really big impact on me, and we're still in contact with her. My dad's really good friends with her, so I see her every once in a while. And then she was there to support me when I won homecoming. So she was actually the loudest in the cheer section. I heard her from down on the field. So, still knowing that she's still there for me even years later is really nice.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes. So tell us about how the adults in your life sort of helped you to sort of reach that level that you've reached here in high school so far. What have they done to help you be successful?
So with my family, I have a really big support group. Like I have a really big cheering section at everything, whether it's a soccer game, a theater production, anything. I have like the largest crowd all the time. Like just that whole row over there, that's me. Is always what I have to say. But they support me in any decision that I make. I've played soccer since I was 4. So like going through that, they've been there the whole time. And then supporting me with all my achievements. They're there at every award ceremony like they are right now. So just knowing that I have that support group or someone that I can go to, it's really helped get to where I am today. I wouldn't be here without them.
Dr. Schumacher.
Congratulations again. I do not know a commercial airline pilot. But you alluded to it a little bit in the video, but we do always like to, or generally we like to hear what, senior you would tell freshman you, kind of going, navigating high school, Topeka West, being a teenager, all that stuff.
If I could tell my younger self, I would say just stay you and stay true to what you want to do. My freshman year was over COVID, so like I always want to get involved, but it was a little hard because you're restricting, wearing masks, 6 feet distance. But I would still tell them try to get involved as much as you can, like the little that you can do, and then keep building from there because it'll work out in the end.
I just wanted to say something to your parents and grandparents. Being there and being that support is so important for a student to stay in school and be successful. And what a compliment to say that you have raised a good human being. That is just so wonderful. And so we want to thank you for all your support that you have given him. And I can tell he appreciates that too. We congratulate you on the Senior of the Month, and I think now it's time to open presents.
Yeah, we got him a little something to take with him into his future endeavors. Something to remind him of where he's come from, little Topeka West stuff, and his favorite 2 people at Topeka West, I believe, and then something else to take with him on his trips. So yeah, he said that the senior Jaden would tell the freshman Jaden to get involved in as many different things as possible. Well, he took that advice early on because he's involved in just about everything he could possibly be involved in at our school. And he's like our unofficial ambassador for Topeka West High School. If anybody comes into the building and needs a tour or anybody comes, new students, he's involved with Link Crew for the freshmen. He's involved in government leadership. The news channel, he is the face of Topeka West, and he is our unofficial ambassador, like I said, and he's just a great kid all around. So yeah, so everything that all of these accolades that come his way aren't by chance. It's because of his hard work he puts in and his just friendly nature. So yeah, so congratulations, Jaden.
Thank you.
Or as we know him more informally, J Patty. So yeah, he's one of my office proctors, and I get quite a few opportunities to sit and chat with him. He's quite a young man. So again, well-deserved accolades. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we can ask everyone to give him an applause and to congratulate J Patty and also Jaden on his award.
Thank you.
So we really do want to know what's in that bag.
Go ahead. So a sweatshirt to remind you of home on your far travels away from Topeka West, knowing that it's always home, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Some of his favorite candies.
Yeah. Oh, well.
That's a picture of your 2 favorite people at Topeka West. Well, 2 of the 3, because I'm not in it. So.
That's good. That's good.
And then your aviator glasses for your pilot career. Look, good luck.
That's great. That is awesome. So we do ask if you hang around for about 10 minutes. When we are done with highlights, the board will be taking a photo with you and Dr. Gray will bring you back up. And I believe the certificate, Mr. Buckendorf is going to go ahead and give you the certificate, shake your hand, and then in about 10 minutes, we'll call you back up for that photo.
Yeah. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And again, we congratulate you. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Gray, who's going to share about what we're celebrating this month. And then we have some college prep students to add to this ending off of the highlight.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. And again, congratulations to you, Mr. Patterson. Tonight, we're here to recognize Native American Heritage Month. Again, we're very excited because we have Mr. Yale Taylor, who is our consultant teacher for Native American Studies. He's going to be with us to just share a little bit about his program. Again, typically we would proclaim Native American Heritage Month through a proclamation, but we've chosen to really just acknowledge the proclamation and hear a little bit about your program. With that, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Taylor.
Halito, Chimichokma, so Chifo Yale Taylor, and I am your Title VI coordinator here at the Topeka Public Schools. I am very thankful, or Yoko Key, for having me here speak about our program today. I know last year I came with some ideas, and with some time, I have been able to establish, build some community relationships, and we have some great things coming this year. So if you can give me a moment, I'd love to share that with you. At the start of the year, I reached out to the Discovery Center to kind of build just a partnership with them. They helped us establish our first Indigenous Family Night for our Title VI kids. So in September, we were able to provide a free night at the Discovery Center for all our K through 5th grade Title VI students. Yeah. Going forward, we have another celebration this month for Indigenous Peoples Day, or for Indigenous Peoples Month. We are having Lisa Baker from 785 Arts. She is coming to teach our kids how to do some projects from the Cherokee Nation. She's actually going to show up twice due to the size of or enrollment with our kids. She's going to come once and make corn husk dolls with our K through 8th graders. And then she's going to come back for our middle to high school kids to do some Cherokee basket weaving. So we look forward to that in the next few weeks as well. The other final highlight I want to talk about, and then I'll let you guys ask me some questions, is we are, like I said, community has kind of been my focus. So one thing I've done this year is I've gone out to our tribal nations, and I've went out to my colleagues at other school districts with their Title VI kids. And we've kind of discussed how can we come together, because a lot of our Indigenous students, they do travel from here back to Mayetta, Royal Valley, and then to Lawrence Public Schools. So we are putting what we have going on here on the 15th is our first youth gathering. Haskell's a part of it, KU's a part of it. We're going to the Lead Center, and we're going to have some motivational speakers speaking to all 3 school districts. My hope is I was able to organize it this year, but my hope is some of the other community members will also step up and host us maybe in the going forward, or we can continue that here in Topeka as well. So those are some of the recent highlights.
And we'll say with Mr. Taylor, just so that you know, Mr. Taylor, because this is a very important month, we always read the same proclamation. It's kind of the same exact thing every year. And so we know that the board has questions for you, but we also know that it's more meaningful for you to share what's coming, what's happened this year. Mr. Taylor, can you mention 2 other things in terms of, and you said this in the past, but it's really for the public listening who wasn't there last year when you spoke. Just remind us how many students we serve, and then your title overall. And then the last component, if you could share as we end this year, and we have families that are listening that might not be identified. How do they do that?
Okay, awesome. So as of this school year, we have 302 kids who have opted into our Title VI program. I know with Synergy now being adopted, we are working on, and I spent most of August doing this, working on setting up identification for our Indigenous students if they choose to identify themselves. But we have almost, and I'm sure Dr. Kipp will correct me, but a high 750 to 800 students within this district that I identify as Native American. So to try to build our numbers, because that's kind of a big gap between the 300 and approximately 800. Really the focus is how do we get out there? How do we promote our program? How do we build that community so that our families know, we care about our Native students here. And just a heads up too, we have over 32 students or 32 nations represented in this district. So of course we have our local nations, Prairie Band, we have Kickapoo and Sac and Fox and the Iowa Tribe of Kansas, but we represent so much more than the 4 that are here within the borders of Kansas.
I'm going to ask our board if they have any questions for you. Mr. Tatum.
Mr. Taylor, thanks for coming back to speak with us about what you've been working on.
Sure.
I think a lot of us, probably all of us, remember when you came last year and really kind of helped enlighten us on what some of the activities that you're promoting to help kind of enhance the experiences of our Native American students. And it certainly sounds like you haven't lost any momentum. You've been pretty active in trying to make some things come together. I was going to ask you, it certainly sounds like you've been largely successful. What were your biggest takeaways from this experience and bringing all this together over the last year?
I think the biggest takeaway is that our students, they want to be a part of their culture. They want to learn about their culture. We had a class going last year, Native American Studies, and when I sent out a survey to our kiddos, it was pretty basic, but just asking them some questions. Most were interested in learning about their nations because we are an urban Indian environment. So a lot of our kids are removed from their culture, removed from their homelands. And so their knowledge about their nations are sometimes limited. So having opportunities for them to come and learn about their specific tribes, their specific nations, that's something that motivates me and kind of helps push me forward in this new year.
Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Mr. Munoz.
Mr. Taylor, great work over the last year. I enjoy hearing your updates. I wonder if you could speak to, for those students who might identify but haven't sort of let our district know, what might be some of the benefits that come about as sort of letting our district know that, hey, I'm someone who belongs to a particular tribe.
Well, what I can help with if they opt in is I kind of look at my role with the students as just as an extra counselor. I'm another counselor for them. I'm their advocate. So once they're opted into our program, if they have questions about college, prepping for their life past Topeka Public Schools, my role is to help them achieve those goals. Also, coming from, I was lucky enough to speak with the head of Title VI recently, Julian Guerrero. I asked him, what is your big push? What do you think a good Native American service director should be doing? And he said, connecting our kids to their nations. Once they're in the program, if they need help with talking to their education departments, learning their language, or just reconnecting with their genealogy, that should be our role. So when families opt into our Title VI program, that's something that I can help work alongside with. And I do know that there are a few parents last year that did take me up on that offer and got to reconnect with some of their ancestral past just because they chose to opt into our program.
Well, thanks so much for all the work you do. Appreciate it.
Mr. Campbell.
Mr. Taylor, thank you so much. As you know, the work you do is extremely valuable and honoring our Indigenous students and giving them the opportunity to expand their knowledge and connect with their tribe and their heritage. So thinking of to Mr. Munoz's point about those who aren't opting in and how we can encourage them to opt in because of all these benefits. So how does one opt in? Like, how do they even know about all these services you provide?
So one perk of Synergy that we've got in place now is if they choose to identify as Native American, they are going to be prompted with like they will be asked if they're Native American, and if they say yes, they'll be prompted with a link that then allows them to identify themselves with their nation if they choose to do that. So once that's done, now we can use our assist program to then find them easier, because I do think with our past systems, it was kind of difficult to know that we had a Title VI program when you're enrolling into our district, but that hopefully by the start of next year will be completely fixed. Yeah.
So then like you get the names and you go find them?
Yep, I go find them. And the federal government requires that I still submit paper copies of it. So there's still another process that I have to follow, but the ease of them knowing that there is a program, it will be a lot better for the next school year in enrollment. Yes.
Okay, that's great to
And
hear.
if they need assistance, just reach out to your school's office. They know they can contact me and I can get the paperwork over to them as soon as possible. So.
Last question, where are you housed? Like what building?
Okay, so I am housed here at Burnett. Yep, I'm over in Pod C, so I do spend some time there, but I also try to bounce around to the schools as much as possible just to get my face out there.
All right, thank you.
Well, I'm excited about the day coming up where you have all the nations coming together in our area. Well, that's an exciting event. And I hope there'll be a lot of publicity about that so that maybe some of those that haven't opted in will realize the importance and the excitement of opting in. So
Sure. And I appreciate everything that you guys have done. One last thing I would like to point out, maybe if there are some parents at home who are questioning enrolling with it. I know last year I brought up that I was working on getting eagle feathers and having an eagle feather ceremony at the end of the year. Well, that took a little longer than I thought. I kind of came in here thinking, oh yeah, I'll have it by the end of last school year. And because of the bird flu that was going around, that took a little longer, but we do have 20 eagle feathers in our possession that we will be honoring our graduating seniors with. Now, there are some stipulations with the legality of handing out feathers. You do have to have your identification, your tribal enrollment identification to receive one, but that is something that we're going to work on doing for our seniors this year at the end of the year.
I love how you're going to honor them with this ceremony. Thank you. That's really wonderful. We appreciate you coming in and filling us in on your activities and how you're building the program, because we are definitely in favor of building that program. Thank you so much.
Yokoki.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor, and Dr. Gray will be giving you your certificate for the board to know that Lawrence Public Schools had this eagle feather ceremony. And we said, how do we do that? And Mr. Taylor has been extraordinary in everything he's doing. And the ceremony often takes years to put that together. So the fact that it's even happening this year is remarkable. Madam President, the final highlight, and thank you again, Mr. Taylor. The final highlight is our college prep students. And may I proceed with allowing the one representative to speak? I know they've been standing there and I know they're tired because they started at 2 a.m. this morning. They've been visiting colleges and other spaces in Chicago throughout the day. So may I proceed with the final highlight?
I do have an official hearing in about 3 minutes.
Oh, that
At
is
6
right.
o'clock.
Yep, we'll be stopping at 6 for the hearing. So since it's 5:59, we'll be stopping in 1 minute, I think, for the hearing. So college
So I
preps,
would really like not to interrupt their presentation to
Absolutely.
us. If we can go ahead and call Ms. Whiteman to open this hearing for us in about 30 seconds.
Yes, ma'am. So as Ms. Whiteman comes to the table, I will say, Mr. McKnight, you might want to take the young people off screen so they can sit down, breathe, drink some water. And in about 5 minutes, we'll be coming right back on from the hearing. We have to start the hearing at exactly 6 o'clock, young people who might be future board members. And so Mrs. Whiteman, we'll turn it over to you to start the hearing in 15 seconds.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson, Madam President, members of the board. We are having an official hearing tonight on the open enrollment policy. This is a policy requirement that was passed by the 2022 legislature. It applies to all school districts in Kansas. The law basically allows any student in any surrounding district to apply for enrollment at Topeka Public Schools. Since 1968, school law has basically addressed resident students who have an automatic right to enroll in any district or any school in their district, and non-resident. The law related to non-resident students was that districts may take them, but are not required to take them. And in many situations, districts would not take them because of growing enrollment, shortages of spaces in the building, or for other discipline reasons. There is a part in Kansas law that basically says if a student is under a period of suspension or expulsion, another district does not have to take them. The new law, and there's a summary of the law on the pink sheet in your table, it basically requires the board to do several things. First of all, they have to call and hold a special or a hearing on the proposed policy. They have to publish notice of the time and place of the hearing, which has been done. And then at the hearing, which is now, the public receives a summary of the legislation as well as the board, and they have an opportunity to present any testimony for or against or questions about the proposed policy. The policy committee has been working several months on the open enrollment changes. And I will discuss those, but there is a brief summary of what the new law requires. The new law basically requires Dr. Kipp has an additional assignment, is basically what's going to happen. And the law is very prescriptive. You will notice in the proposed policy, about 4 of the pages of the proposed policy is new language, which is basically pulled from the new statute relating to the procedures and process of who you take and how many eligible seats there are in a school district. It's very prescriptive, but basically what it requires is that before January 1st, every school board in the state will adopt a policy and then hold a hearing just like you are. By May 1st of next year, Dr. Kipp will be determining how much capacity in every school building, every classroom in all of Topeka Public Schools, 30 buildings. So he will be doing that determination. And then the capacity is going to be based upon the teacher-student ratio. It'll look differently at the high school because you have all of the electives, which you don't have at the elementary school. Then in June 1st, he will publish the notice of how many seats are available for non-resident students who want to apply. Then by July 15th, the month of June, we will accept applications. By July 15th, the determination will be made. If there are more applications for seats than are seats available, then a lottery will be conducted to determine who gets those seats. The statute is very prescriptive about priorities. It actually sets priorities for students that will be accepted above others. And those priorities are listed in the policy and in the summary. If it's a sibling of a non-resident student who we've accepted, they will get a priority. Military students get a priority. Child's in the custody of DCF, Department of Children and Families, will get a priority. Non-resident students who has a parent employed by the district will have a priority. And many districts already allow this because it is good for recruiting of employees. And then There is an exception for homeless children also, and then a unique exception for non-resident students who were enrolled or attending the district in the 23-24 year. I think that was for the eastern boundary districts. A lot of Missouri students come into the Johnson County school districts. So I will review the policy briefly, and then we will open it up for any questions or comments from the public. And if there are no questions or comments from the public, we'll open it for questions or comments from the board. And there is no action. The statute is very prescriptive in the sense I've not seen this in the statute before. It basically says that the public hearing will be held at one meeting and then the board will adopt it at another meeting. Again, to give people the opportunity to look at that. The policy in front of you, 8025, is our entire policy on resident, non-resident, and we've added open enrollment to that, but it's divided into 5 sections. And the board policy committee and I took this opportunity to try to clean up some of our current policy language, add this open enrollment policy into the current language, and then try to reorganize it so that it read, it was a little easier to read, and we combined the topics into basically 5. The first section talks about basic enrollment. These are the statutes that are require or apply to all students who enroll in the district, the immunization requirements specifically. Then we talk about resident students and how we assign them to the buildings and how we determine if they are resident. But number 3, the third section, pages 4 to about 8, talk and list all of the new language on open enrollment, which I have just reviewed. It's really all of the procedures that are required. Section 4 talks about assignment to schools. And then section 5 about because the district has a number of elementary, middle school, and high schools, there are certain transfers that are allowed within the district, so that addresses that. The one area I want to call to your attention, though, in the new open enrollment policy is the one that is, if you would turn to page 8 in the policy. It talks about, under prior law, a student had to be accepted every year when they were accepted as a non-resident student. Once we accept these students and if we have space available and accept them, they are our students for as long as they want to attend Topeka Public Schools, and they will be allowed to finish their high school career with us if they so desire. However, there is a requirement in the policy which reflects the requirement in the law that they will remain our student unless they become a student not in good standing. And that is defined in the policy. They can be denied continued enrollment based on if they failed to maintain a 90% attendance rate. And the Kansas Department of Education over the last few years has been increasing what the expectations for schools to make sure that students are attending school. There is a mandatory school attendance law. Also, if the student is currently under a period of suspension or expulsion from another district, they're not in good standing. But look at F. If the student, while they're attending our schools, has 2 or more short-term suspensions in the school year or an expulsion, then they would no longer be a student in good standing and they would no longer be able to attend under this new non-resident policy. And that is allowed by the statute. So other than that, at this time, I would ask, since it is a public hearing for the public, if there are any members of the public who would like to address the board on this proposed policy. Yes, sir. Please come forward. Please state your name and address. There. Might be easier.
Not a problem. Good evening. I actually get to double dip tonight on this one. One of the things that we saw that we just experienced the approximately 7th year of the Brown versus the Board of Education case. And we know that rulings like this across the nation have had an adverse impact on urban schools. And so what usually happens is that there tends to be a flight from the urban core, leaving those impoverished kids to deal with whatever's left. I'm asking the board in their ultimate wisdom to streamline what we need to do in our district. And I would recommend starting at 8th grade where we start preparing these kids. So by the time they finish high school, and I know we're starting to do that now, that they should be able to have a full technical degree or a junior college associate's degree. We have to be as competitive as we possibly can so that we won't use our talented students to the rural areas. And we're not even going to talk about athletics. In Florida, we see kids traveling 70 miles a day to get to a school. Some of that's athletic based, some of that's education based. But if we could take this as a challenge and say that we want to make sure that when a kid sees 501 school and they have an opportunity to enroll, they will jump at it and say that when they leave here, they'll have an associate's degree. So that we need to start prepping them in 8th grade, getting them on that track academically. I know we like to have a lot of fluff and like to have a lot of social dreams, but right now it's a competitive survival for those kids because we see an explosion of young folks on free and reduced lunch within our district. Am I correct? There's nothing wrong with that. I know what it's like to be impoverished. I'm the 9th of 10 kids. They're all smarter than me. I just happen to be the best looking. But I want to say this to everyone. If we don't take this and attack it, we will become what America expects when we have this open enrollment. When I begged them to move the ESL, ELL program to Highland Park, extremely successful. I'm excited about it. Right now, we have a new challenge. We can take this and say, we're going to take and streamline our dollars to college prep, vocational prep. And they say, my people perish because of a lack of knowledge. This is not something that's a very simple thing for us, for the impoverished kids. Transportation, the poorest kids ain't gonna be able to go to the other school district. There might be a few for athletics that get access to other things, but we must say every kid within this region is gonna want to come to 501 school district. And that way we'll keep our own and pick from the best of the rest and say, when they leave here, the curriculum is designed where you get the after school tutoring, the evening time tutoring, so that your academics are up to par, so that you can get through those levels that you need starting in your sophomore year of high school, so you can start taking college courses as a junior. Otherwise, you will see the most impoverished districts, and I travel and I speak at them all over the nation. That's what usually happens. There's always flight, and the poorest who cannot leave wind up staying. And some of our great staff who really love our kids, sometimes it's just survival where you have to go other places. And I'm saying it to you again, do not take this lightly. Please streamline these kids so that they can be competitive locally, statewide, nationally, and this global market. Otherwise, you'll see this day as the day that we punted on first down and we gave in to the machine. We have the tools to make this thing, the Brown versus the Board of Education district, the flagship for America, and say, we're going to make sure our kids walk out of here with an associate's degree or a technical level skill that they can compete and get a livable wage. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Have any questions about this proposed policy or comments? Seeing none, I close this public hearing. However, if the board would like have any questions, I certainly would be happy to answer at this time. However, it will be on the agenda at the next meeting for final approval if you want to take time to review that.
Thank you. I do have a question. So sometimes we have late enrollment by families for many different reasons. If late enrollment happens for a family that lives in the neighborhood of this school, and those positions are taken, are they placed into the lottery as well for any other position in Topeka Public Schools?
That will be Dr. Kip's biggest challenge in the sense that if they are a resident student, they have a right to attend one of our public schools. So if the parent, for whatever reason, decides to enroll them later, they may not get the school that they desired in their local neighborhood. As a general rule, parents like to have their students attend the local neighborhood school. But he will certainly, and one of the things the district will be doing differently is starting early enrollment for resident students earlier than has been done before, to make sure that all resident students who want a spot in Topeka Public Schools has it before the deadlines for allowing for declaring the open seats available.
And transportation will be provided, or do we have a policy for transportation for students that lost their spot?
That would be determined on a case-by-case basis. The law specifically says the district does not have to transport non-resident students. They have to make their own way to the school district if they decide they want to attend USD 501. But other than that, the policy does say currently that if their resident school is over capacity, then they would be offered another school, and the policy would provide that transportation would be provided to them.
Thank you.
Mr. Munoz.
That was my question as well, is that I realize that when it comes to parents that, not everybody registers on the very first day when we get that email, right? Families have lots on their mind. And my worry was about those families who we know. And it's hard to imagine, I wouldn't believe it until I heard it from a family who said, oh, I better register my kids' school's coming up in a week, 2 weeks. What are we doing to be proactive? So I'd like to hear from Dr. Kip, perhaps at our next meeting, what things are at our disposal to be able to, make sure that individuals families understand the impact of this new legislation, and from right now, as we adopt it, but it's on the other end, make sure that anything we can do within our power to make sure families are registering earlier than, so that we can make sure a spot for them closest to where they live is made secured. So.
And if I may, Mr. Munoz, then Dr. Kip, who's at the Synergy training today, he will be at the board meeting at the next meeting. So we'll make sure we add that. Since this will be on at the next meeting, if there are other questions to send to administration or to Ms. Whiteman, we'll be prepared to research those and add those as well for that next meeting, in addition to that. And thank you, Ms. Whiteman.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Yeah, so I share the same concern that that Ms. Boley and Mr. Munoz discussed, wondering if it's possible for families who have their children have been enrolled in the district to not have to. Like, is this a must that and Dr. Kip can address this question as well. Could it just be automatically that we're just going to assume, that they are going to enroll? I'm specifically thinking of our parents who are not proficient in English and do not understand how this works. So I've helped families like in other districts, the second week of school, like their kids are just going to school, but they're not enrolled because they have no idea what to do. So if it comes to this and they're not automatically enrolled, will there be somebody who can be contacting them who speaks Spanish or Ukrainian to guide them through the process? Because we do not want these kids to have to go to a school that they don't want to go to.
That's a really good point, Mr. Campbell. Mr. Campbell, I'm going to have Dr. Kip and Dr. Mejia call you to talk about all the things that you'd like to see in place in that regard as well. Because think about all the newcomers who went, beyond Spanish and Ukrainian. So we'll do that as well. So those two things will be added. Dr. Kip will be added, those questions specifically, and then we'll just check in with each of the board members between now and the next meeting. And any other questions, we'll add those as well.
Thank you, Ms. Whiteman.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time, and we do need to finish up our highlights so we can take our pictures. I appreciate your patience waiting on us, but we promise we're going to get to it.
All right, Ms. Whiteman, is there any other official closing or a step that Ms. Lister needs to take before we return to our students?
No, Dr. Anderson.
Okay.
Should we close the hearing and then the action will be at the next board meeting?
All right, thank you. Okay, and we still have some photos to take with our Senior of the Month. And for our Senior of the Month, just so you know, we do have a junior, I believe, in our audience who is actually a first place winner from Educators Rising in the Teacher Pathway, Zach Buffington from Topeka West. So when I said to our senior that you really are a model of possibility and all the excellence, and I know that you have many college credit hours as well, all of those things, you are a model for the young people that are before you. All right, these are middle school students, and so and high school students, ranging from 9th grade, 11th grade, as well as 7th on up, and they hit each one of the strands. I'm going to turn it over to our student representative. Madam President, they have been up since 2, and so they haven't had dinner yet, so they may be rather short, entertaining questions, so they can go and have dinner and call it an evening. I'll turn it over to College Prep.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hello, everyone. That's that 2 a.m. speaking. Hello, everyone. My name is Simone Holloway. I'm a 7th grader attending Jardine Middle School, and I'm a first-year college prep scholar. Today, we started off our day at 1 in the morning, which is very early. We went to the airport and checked into our flight. We arrived in Chicago at 7 a.m. in the morning and checked into our hotel, all of the necessities, and then we headed to the University of Chicago, which was amazing. We got to learn so much about the school, the social life, the majors, all of the different aspects of why Chicago, the University of Chicago, was different from all of the other colleges. So that was really fun, and I really personally got an open idea about the college. And then we visited a different college. We visited the University of Illinois, which is really cool. We got a lot of fun information about that place. And it was just fun being in Chicago, actually being able to say, hey, I'm in Chicago. This is the site. This is like the downtown area. We got to walk through the downtown area and look at the shops and look at the different sites. We got to look at the Bean, which is the sculpture, the sightseeing sculpture that reflects all of Chicago. So it was really fun looking at that. And it was just overall such a great experience to just be in Chicago. And we're very grateful for that. And came back to our hotel, and tomorrow we're going to a board meeting, a summit. So that's the summit. So that's going to be very fun, and we're just overall very grateful for this.
Thank you, Simone. And for the purpose of the board, really quickly for each person, I'm not sure if we can hear you fully. Can you just share what school you're representing? Zoe?
My name is Zoe Alegria, and I am representing French Middle School as an 8th grader.
All right, can you continue from there?
My name is Graham Chase. I attend French Middle School, and this is my 2nd year at the College Prep Academy.
My name is Kobe Hall. I am a 10th grader at Highland Park High School, and this is my 4th year as a college prep scholar.
My name is Zach Buffington. I'm a junior at Topeka West High School and a 5th year college prep scholar.
My name is Lily Buffington. I am a 7th grader at French Middle School and a 1st year college prep scholar.
And for our high school students and our middle school students, if you're in middle school and you have been taking either high school courses, can you just do a raise of your hand? Because we just talked about open enrollment and preparation. If you've been taking high school courses either through Mr. McKnight at the 9th grade level or through Ms. Dela Cruz, taking college courses, can you give a show of your hands at this point? All right. And with that, for all of the college prep students, and as you know, Madam President, all of our students have the opportunity to sign up for college classes primarily funded by the school and CTE, college career readiness and CTE courses. So many of them leave. The goal is to leave with an industry credential. Of course, all of our college prep students leave with 30 to 60 hours of college. So as they end their trip tomorrow and come back to school on Friday, are there any questions for our college prep scholars?
Mr. Tatum.
Wow, you guys are having a blast in Chicago. It certainly sounds like I was in Chicago about a year ago, so I know how fun it can be. And it sounds like you guys have already been focusing on some of the more enjoyable aspects besides going to the universities and stuff. I know that's really cool in its own right. But I am really curious to see, with everything that you guys have seen so far of the sights of Chicago, are there other things that you're still hoping to be able to see in the time that you have left?
And I'm going to turn this over to another voice. Simone, first of all, you did an excellent job, outstanding job. Yes, ma'am, Miss Buffington, thank you for applauding her. Is there another site that you wanted to see, or do you feel like you've covered really the full gamut of opportunity? Lily, do you want to speak to that?
For sure, for me, I would love to go see the mall, but we are not going to see it. I think it would just be a really cool place to see.
All right. With that, anyone else that wanted to speak to that? Mr. Buffington, who won first place in Educators Rising. He is a future teacher. He wants to be a superintendent one day. Mr. Buffington?
I probably would like to see more of like the art installations or the old architecture. I know when we were visiting the University of Chicago, it was beautiful seeing all of, I mean, it kind of, a couple of students were remembering Topeka High with how it kind of looked like castles. It was just very beautiful to see, and I'd love to see more of that.
All right.
Any other final question before we free them up? I think they have pizza waiting behind them for dinner this evening and then the call tonight. So any other questions for our young people?
I do have one from Dr. Bonebrake.
I don't suppose anybody will take him to the top of the Hancock building for a restaurant on the 95th.
Oh, well, Dr. Bonebrake, they're there for 24 hours from 2 a.m. and we leave tomorrow at 12 and I think we are. So I think with this short trip, the hope is that the level of exposure inspires young people to learn more and gain more. And it helps inspire them on looking at opportunities in Kansas and beyond Kansas that might be the place of their future career or school or any other place. So you all have that noted. You can put it in your journal. The restaurant he just mentioned, the next time you're in Chicago, to be able to visit that restaurant as a place of opportunity. It's probably better than pizza.
What color was the Chicago River? Never mind.
It was blue.
We just want to thank all of you for representing our school district so well. We're so proud that you're looking at your colleges already and finding all your opportunities out there. So we hope you continue to have a good time and enjoy that pizza and get a little bit of sleep. Sounds like you're got a lot to do tomorrow as well. Thank you all. Have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. That does conclude our highlights. Thank you, College Prep Academy scholars. You all did an excellent job. Have a good evening. We're going to, I'd like to ask if we could take a 5-minute break so that we can take a photo with our Topeka West Senior of the Month and with Mr. Taylor. So if we could take a 5-minute break, Mrs. Boley, and Dr. Gray will coordinate those photos.
And it's done.
Thank you.
Right up here in the front. And on either side, and then
At this time, we will be looking for public comment. Ms. Lister, do we have someone with us this evening?
You have one person.
Mr. Pitts? As you approach the podium, I do have something to read to you. I know you've heard it before. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either myself as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I don't have any complaints against staff. That's not usually how I do business. I'm here tonight because I talked to you a few months ago about the.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you give us your name, address?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Curtis Pitts, 809 Southeast 12th Street.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
No problem at all. My time gets to start again. I'm double dipping tonight, so I'm excited. Double dipping. I want to say this to you all. I came to you a few months ago, and I'm sure you heard like, well, you know, Curtis, you know, you shouldn't listen, you shouldn't do this. But I want to talk about what's happening with our young people out in the community, in the streets, and accessibility. You know, traveling on the east side and having an opportunity for years. And as I told you before, I've won every major award you've had here as a community person. Our young folks are carrying guns now because they're not sure that we're going to protect them and make them safe. So many of our young people want to do the right thing. They're struggling, they're striving to do the right thing, and we should be so proud. The issue we have right now is, where do the young people go at on Saturday nights when they don't have anywhere safe to go? And right now, our young people are walking the streets, and sooner or later, we're going to see that we're going to have more opportunities to say, unless we get it together now, what school did that child go to? Who is his teacher? Do we know anything about his family? We can continue to do preventative things by opening those facilities. We have the grant money. We have the staffing already. We don't have to raise money. All we have to do is do a shift in budget and priority. Bring in some of those paras on Saturday nights, open the gym, volleyball, basketball, bring in guest speakers to talk about career tracks, provide them a meal, but give them a safe environment to go. If you rode around town on Saturday nights, and I'm telling you this, and I want you to look in my face, because you have these kids for 9 hours a day under your control. But on the Saturday nights, the most terrifying thing I've learned about these teachers who care about these students is when they come to school Monday and they're so heartbroken about losing one of their students and wonder what they could have done differently. The truth of it is, young folks are just walking the streets and going to house parties. You got gang members out there saying, Curtis, don't get on us because they have nowhere to go. They keep coming to where we at. At some particular point, we're going to have to start protecting the children more than the facilities. I know you love them. I know you care. But honestly, it's a war out there for their future. And you're the frontline agency. You can bury your head in the sand and we'll keep burying kids. Give them a safe place to go. 2 facilities, gyms at Topeka High, 2 gyms at Highland Park, and kids are walking the streets. A theater. People from the jail administration are calling me, Curtis, if you guys get a facility, we'll come up there and volunteer. It's a priority to law enforcement. And we can't keep saying it's a law enforcement issue. It's a community issue. It's what we're pouring into these kids and what opportunities are we giving them to compete and to live. A lot of these parents are working 16-hour days on the weekend to have a livable wage. They're not at the club. How do we keep our community safe and not, as they used to say in the old days, throw the baby out with the bathwater? We can't create museums in the great white building in the community while children are walking by it at night, hungry for opportunities, hungry for places to be, to belong, hungry to be able to say, I made it another day. The best industry in East Topeka, east of Washburn, cannot be the funeral business. It cannot be corrections. It cannot be DCF. We are the frontline agency. Reprogram some of your staff. You have the dollars to do it. You have grants. If you don't have the staff, this is the only place that how much somebody can
Mr. Curtis, can I, if I make a motion to give you 30 seconds more, would that be enough to?
I need 1 minute and I'll be out of y'all way.
1 minute, okay.
After Christmas.
Madam President,
Come back
I'd
next
like
week.
to make a motion to give 1 more minute to Mr. Pitts, if that's okay.
A raise of hands if you.
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, thank you.
I thank you all again. And that's the reason I believe that I'm talking to the right people. We have a chance to make a shift in their life. I have done gang prevention in this region and I'm considered one of the best in the nation. And we're just catching up to what's happening in other cities. We cannot protect the building because if you go in there now, I can tell you about teachers who taught at Highland Park in the 80s, and they're no longer there, but the building's there. We got a chance to fix this. You don't need more money. You just got to make it a priority. And I know you will because I know most of you guys give of your own time and money anyway. Just get out your comfort zone. We have to be uncomfortable with ourselves and staff and say, our children need a place to go. Let's fix it for them. Let's partner. Reach out to those church organizations. They'll come, they'll join. Law enforcement, they'll join. Even the people on the staff at the jail say, we will join. Thank you guys so much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts, for coming to speak. We don't have any other public speak tonight? Thank you.
Madam President, it looks like we do have another person in the audience.
Ms. Lister, there's supposed to be paperwork that's filled out first.
Yes.
Could I ask you to do that for our next meeting? And please bring your thoughts back with you. Mr. Munoz?
Can we, is there allowance to?
Whatever you
Uh,
choose.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion just to have, if you could fill that paperwork out and then, okay.
Do we allow him to speak at this time or?
You can come up and state.
And then fill out the paperwork for you.
Paperwork after.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any problems with anybody on the board with that? Thank you.
Thank you, Board. My name is Marcus Miller. I'm at 1505 Southwest Webster. I have a young lady here who's a senior at Topeka West. Would you please bring another sheet because I'm going to ask that she's allowed to have her moment to speak as well.
I do have to read my statement again. legalities. So please come forward and state your name and address for the board and the records. You have 3 minutes to address the board. Your time will be over here on the visual. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either myself as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Zoe Clark. I attend Topeka West High School, and I felt the need to express my concern in this email. I'm speaking today to ask that you please investigate and reconsider the recent removal of the Topeka West girls basketball head coach. It was brought to my attention on November 1st that our head coach.
Personnel matter. I'm sorry, but you can't.
What I was thinking.
This is why
Finish.
She may finish, but do understand that under Kansas law, matters affecting personnel and students are confidential. So if you say anything derogatory, defamatory, or that is not accurate, then there could be legal repercussions against you. So just keep your comments general and comments about your personal experience in working with them.
I will say that every board member did get the email and it was read. It was read with full heart, if that is helpful in your protection.
Thank you, board, and I appreciate the clarification about the legalities. In this moment right now, we are scaring this little girl from her voice. Allow her to speak, please. Now, I appreciate it, and I will not go in.
Legally, she may speak about her experience.
That's what she's doing.
Been one as a coach, as a student player, she certainly can speak about her dealings with them and her opinion of them. But anything specific about his personal situation, that's what is confidential and will have to be discussed in executive session. But she may speak at this point in time.
Unless the confidential information that you're speaking of was told to the student, she wouldn't be able to address to that anyway. Correct? Now,
Correct. We just want to make sure that your person is protected and has a clear understanding.
absolutely. And now, like I said, we have scared this child from speaking. I have spent a lot of time with this little girl that's behind me right now. And there's been a lot of times that I've had to save her from folks who would not allow her to speak her voice or give her opinion or be able to do the things that she wants to do. So in this moment, I'm going to stand on the mantle for her because I feel there is injustice, and it may not be from 501. It could be from Keisha and their rules. But if we, let's say from the foster system, what is in the child's best interest? If we have a team of girls who historically have not been very good and have not had a lot to be inspired about from an athletic standpoint at their school, and we have brought in a coach who is giving them that inspiration that's in this mission, and then because of technicalities and little bitty rules that don't affect the big scheme of things, we are taking that coach away, and now we have 10 girls who were not going to go out for basketball and now have quit because of some rules and some opinions of people who didn't even ask the team first. So if we're going to put structures in place to allow kids to be able to excel, and we're going to prepare them with the tools to be able to do so, we need to listen to them before we make decisions that affect their high school careers. I understand this time is limited. We could go on and on about this. But in the interest of the time that we weren't on written, and I appreciate Lalo for making the motion and for Keith for saying to allow some extra time and allow me to be able to speak and allow Zoe a moment to be able to try to give her feelings. I want to make sure that every single decision we make, even in tandem when it comes to appealing something that Acacia has made, a decision Acacia has made, and support the people and the programs that you guys are in charge of, please consider helping her and the rest of those girls to be able to get the coach that they want and that is going to help inspire them going forward. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you for coming before the board. At this time, we need a motion for business by consent.
I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Do I have a second? Dr. Bonebrake? Any questions or discussion? Can we have our vote, please?
Vote is open. Thank you. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
At this time, I would like for our superintendent's report. Our subject is mental health.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So, and this innovative summit that the students are at is actually focused on mental health and school climate. But I'll tell you, they were a little tired. They couldn't hang in there for the later part of the board meeting. And so they've transitioned on, but we do have staffers that are also gaining some wisdom in that space. But tonight we have a special guest. Dr. Gray will introduce our guest who's coming to the podium, and Dr. Gray's coming to the podium. But I can tell you the organization that our guest represents is Family Service and Guidance. Both Mr. Munoz, I believe it was Mr. Munoz, and perhaps it was Ms. Boley as well, along with Mr. Robbins and myself. We had the wonderful opportunity, in fact, it was Ms. Boley at the ICC. We had the opportunity to listen to Family Service Guidance talk about their new facility. So you're going to hear about the new facility, but what was even more interesting, in addition to the amazing facility, is the reason why they had to build a facility to begin with the amount of time that they are allowing young people to stay with them. They are such an incredible partner. And we want to thank our FSG person who's been waiting patiently to share this. The other thing she'll share is a little bit about mental health. Have the needs increased? What we're seeing, what they're seeing, which is also replicating what we're seeing and what staff is navigating through tirelessly. So with that, a context, I'll turn it over to Dr. Gray.
Again, thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. And with that, we would like to welcome Ms. Karen Smothers, Director of Clinical Operations for Family Service and Guidance. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the services we're providing at Family Service and Guidance Center. As a quick overview, we are the only community mental health center in Kansas that specializes in pediatric mental health. And we're very proud of that status. I, coming to Family Service and Guidance Center as the clinical director 5 years ago, have always seen family service in this Topeka area as leaders in this field, and reached out to my colleagues here when I was working in another mental health center for expertise in pediatric mental health. And so I'm honored to be a part of Family Service and Guidance Center for the last 5 years as their clinical director. In that last 5 years, some of the things that we've evaluated and assessed is the strong need for substance use treatment for adolescents and youth. One of the things we noted, first of all, is that Family Service and Guidance Center did not have a substance use treatment program, and we didn't have the expertise in-house at the time, was that we were in some ways segregating mental health from substance use treatment. And so youth were sent elsewhere, even though they were supposed to be addressing their mental health issues with their therapist at Family Service and Guidance Center. That's not really whole person care. And so I'm really proud of our staff in a period of actually 2 years. We became a certified substance use treatment program and are able to provide whole person care, because I think we all know that substance use issues are often tied to mental health issues, and we can address those simultaneously and concurrently for students and youth, as well as families. The building that's you see the picture of is also an extension of not only our current crisis services that we had at our Lane Street facility, which was a little outdated and was not really created as a therapeutic environment for youth. So we were really happy to be able to move that program here on our Fraser campus. This is our Youth Crisis and Recovery Center. The top floor will already has 2 suites that are almost full. Right now, we're averaging a census of 14 to 16 youth just at the upstairs suites for crisis services, as well as overnight respite care for youth who have severe emotional disturbances and maybe in psychiatric crisis. This is intended to be short-term and currently is between 48 and 72 hours. We do have an extended crisis suite also upstairs that we are launching probably in the next few months, more so the new year, where we will be able to stabilize youth who are in crisis as well as their families for up to 28 days. And that will include extensive individual and family therapy and really reaching out and branching and engaging family members into the care. Downstairs, as I mentioned about integrated treatment for substance use disorders, we have 8 beds or a suite that is an integrated treatment program for co-occurring disorders for youth who are severely emotionally disturbed as well as have a substance use disorder. And that suite will be opening. We'll be hoping to accept admissions there in January. So we are very appreciative of all of your support. We are very excited about some of the great successes we've had with our school-based mental health intervention teams with USD 501. We are excited to see that continue to expand and grow. Those services will continue to be integrated with all of our services at Family Service and Guidance Center. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to share. We may have some questions for you.
Okay.
So do I have any questions from the board that you might direct at her? Yes, Dr. Bonebrake.
How are the services covered? Because that could be rather intensive and serious.
Yeah, so we, first of all, have had a lot of great financial support in the building, as well as support and grants to cover some of the services that we have. You may have heard that we're awarded 2 federal grants in the last few years. Some of those grants are focused on the treatment of co-occurring disorders, and that will help subsidize care. We also recently, as you may have heard, became a certified community behavioral health center, and that changes the way mental health services are funded and covers some of our costs versus kind of fee for service. So we have included our costs for treating youth in that model of treatment. And so we expect that's how our services will be covered. Good question.
We're lucky.
Dr. Schumacher.
Thank you for coming tonight. A bit more of a general question, I guess. You know, we talk a lot as a board about mental health of our students. And do you have a feeling from 5 years ago to now, kind of where the youth in our community are at from a mental health perspective? And, you know, I think a lot of people point to COVID, but I suspect and feel like there's a lot of other factors, and that might be a hard question to answer. But if you have a feeling about other factors that may contribute to where our students are at now.
Sure. It is a very broad question. We have youth and families who are struggling in our communities and always will. We hope to build better coping skills and resiliency, and hence why early intervention we feel like is really important. We even have a preschool program at Family Service and Guidance Center to identify youth who are struggling earlier on. In terms of trends, yes, the pandemic clearly has had a huge impact on the mental health of youth, as well as just current events. I think we have a lot of youth who are needing to build better coping strategies earlier on, so that they can manage the daily stress of life. That doesn't account, though, for some of the very traumatic incidents that occurred in this community as they experience violence and abuse, neglect, seeing lost friends and colleagues lost. So being sensitive to that as well, I feel like we're seeing repercussions of just some of those societal changes as well.
I know that was probably too broad of a question, but I appreciate your insight. Yeah.
Thank you.
And Ms. Smothers, if I may ask, and at the ICC meeting, one of the things that came up to Dr. Schumacher's question as well, while he wasn't at that meeting, that same correlation to the pandemic and domestic violence and just violence in general soaring since then. And he said some stats, and I don't quite remember them, but as he talked about the increase of a variety of things since the pandemic, that seemed to have some correlation to what young people are seeing into where they are now from what he was sharing. And is that what you have found as well? The second question, yesterday there was a violence conversation with a panelist of people on featured by WIBW. And Stormont Vale Trauma Center, Dr. Carnegie was there, and he was talking about, and the question was, what does that do to your staff? And your staff member shared that you all have created actually spaces where kids can be, in fact, his glasses were broke that day. And in fact, they fell off his face as he was talking. I don't know if you were there that day when whatever happened at the building, but he shared that just the behaviors and the toll and the amount of time, and you all have created some spaces that are separate in your building. So if kids come in late at night at different hours, they come in very violent, they have some cool down spaces, but it really is quite the impact on staff as well, from what he shared as his glasses fell off his face as he was talking. So can you speak to that piece in terms of the impacts of the people around them, in addition to the pandemic, and is there a correlation to the increase in violence since the pandemic?
Back to your statement, I think you were referring to Mr. Freed, who is a psychologist at Family Service and Guidance Center, and he's also the director of our crisis program. And so the facility that we just talked about is, I think, what he was referring to, our Youth Crisis and Recovery Center. In terms of perhaps what he was saying, the acuity of the issues that we're seeing tend to be much higher. I've been in community mental health now, this is 30 years. And I would say, we're not institutionalizing youth, which is a good thing. We are seeing a lot of more severe issues and behaviors in the community. I don't think that's fair, though, to say that kids who were institutionalized at Topeka State Hospital, I used to be the Topeka State Hospital liaison and worked with youth who'd been there years and a big part of their lives. So maybe those behaviors were there and we didn't really see that. And now we see what that looks like in the community. Our staff are trying to be more creative and use evidence-based practices to address these issues. We are still identifying that the most effective intervention that we can provide to youth is a relationship. And so Mr. Freed, with his broken glasses after an aggressive incident with a youth at our youth crisis facility, also excels at building rapport with youth and building trust. We hope that our Youth Crisis and Recovery Center will be a place of safety. We're very excited that we could build a facility that had a therapeutic mindset and strategy when it was built, so that youth see daylight. They don't feel like they're in a cinder block cell or walls, that there's community, there's a family environment, there are staff who care about them and that they can trust. And while I know that doesn't fix everything, we do hope we can provide some safety for youth so that they can heal and recover. So I hope that helps.
It does. And Miss Smothers, and it was interesting listening to Dr. Carnegie talking about adults that are interacting with staff, for example, at his trauma center, that in very aggressive ways, and just behaviors that take a toll on people in general, and what that looks like. The other piece that was shared with us was regarding the beds, which was very interesting. And creating this facility, which is very unique for the amount of days, the privatization of insurance and other matters of that. KDHE was there as well. Other matters that for this board to understand that prevent students from being able to stay for a month at a hospital when students are in crisis. It is not something that is accessible. So they go to the hospital or they're in need, but then they're released at a particular time. He spoke to that and they come back to school. And these are the young people that we have. So when they are ready to break someone's glasses, and without the facility that you have, there really aren't the kind of level of resources to be able to go. Can you speak to that challenge? It was mentioned there could be legislation changed potentially. And so that's something we're going to look into in terms of how do we partner for that. But can you just educate us on that challenge so we know why we have so many students, and as do the neighboring districts, that may be in need, but may not, it's not as simple as saying send them to the hospital. There may not even be a bed available if that's not a simple resource or even an accessible resource.
Yeah, exactly. That is really the impetus for us building this program, the Youth Crisis and Recovery Center and the Extended Stay Program. We are seeing a lot of recidivism among youth who might go to the hospital for 2 or 3 days. I would guess that no longer than a week is an average length of stay. I believe it's closer to probably 3 or 4 days. They may have started to stabilize, but may return to a similar environment without a lot of change occurring there. And I think that's the dilemma is longer treatment really more beneficial? And there's some research to support that it is not. There still needs to be intervention and time for people to heal and recover. There also needs to be intervention at the family level. So I think that's what our intent is by extending the stay and getting licensed to be able to keep youth up to 28 days is to give the system, the family system itself, an opportunity to regroup and heal and stabilize, de-escalate, and hopefully implement new strategies for their child's recovery.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just had a comment that I'm excited to hear that there's an additional resource here for our students. We know that the environments our students are coming from are difficult, and that that it shows up in a classroom. And so resources like this are going to help our students be that much more successful and prepare them for a future. And so I'm grateful for the work that you're doing and many others to have this available for our students. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being here tonight and helping us understand the resources that we have in our community. And thank you for having more room for students that are struggling, particularly in our district. We appreciate that help. So thank you for taking your time tonight and being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, that is all that we have under the area of mental health in terms of just sharing some of those resources. I anticipate the Mental Health Committee will be suggesting some continued strategies and interventions and ways to support students, families, and staff in the future. And so this is really just a primer to give continued education in this space that the board has listed as one of the priority goals. Thank you. And that concludes our report.
Thank you for asking her to be here tonight. I know many of our teachers will appreciate this assistance. So we're down to board comments. Dr. Bonebrake.
remember the Six Sigma deal about 15, 20 years ago, where you dig deeper and deeper and deeper till you get something that finally works? And dealing with these acute problems. Remember Matthew Perry on Friends? He was admitted 65 times or something for intervention and drug rehab and psychiatric evaluations. But remember that book we all got about 3 months ago about social poverty? I think that's where it kind of stems from. There's a lot of social poverty. And if you don't have any relationships, you don't have a relationship you can look at as an ideal, you're going to have a difficult time dealing with financial problems and interpersonal problems and relative problems. So it's just not an easy thing to address. And it's nice to have these things available, but we're not getting to the Six Sigma. That's all I have.
Dr. Schumacher.
We had technology committee. Was it last week? Yeah. Seems so long ago. We celebrated the end of October, which was Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Mr. Gowan was careful to email me talking points so I didn't give away all of our secrets. But we discussed the cybersecurity training that was kind of wrapping up, but also improvement in our, I'm going to read this verbatim so I don't screw it up. Improvement in our cybersecurity readiness indicators using our recently adopted tools. Just vague enough. We talked about digital equity, which is always at our the forefront. We discussed FCC funded Chromebooks and hotspots that were provided during some families in need at Quincy during conferences. We discussed the start of attendance calls, which I've gotten those already, so that's exciting. And then update, as always, on the installation and the hard work of the team putting in the interactive panels. I know that that's been an appreciated addition to a lot of classrooms, and I didn't realize until this meeting that our staff was going in very early to get that done, and then trying to do it in the off hours from when our students are in the classroom so as to not disrupt. So very much appreciated, I know, from the staff, and I suspect from the students as well. And I think that's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum.
I don't have much to offer up this meeting, which is probably a good thing. We can be a little more quickly on our way. I will give kudos to all the hardworking teachers and other school professionals that contributed to parent-teacher conferences last week. I know mine went very, very well, and hopefully everyone else's did too. So we can mark that box, check that box. And, I don't think I've had a committee meeting since we met last. So that's it for me.
Mr. Munoz.
In our recent policy committee, we just simply went over one last time the open enrollment legislative changes that we discussed today. Parent-teacher conferences, obviously a lot of work from a lot of staff to sort of put that together and be there to be able to meet with our students and their parents and their adults in their lives. So thankful for that, echoing Mr. Tatum's comments. And one last thing, the only thing I'll also bring up is that recently I attended a breakfast for the 70th anniversary of Brown v. Board. I hope that as these events are announced in our community, that we all take advantage to sort of attend these events. 70 years since Brown v. Board. It's an important decision, especially in education. And we have a part that we played in that. And so I think it's important to be involved if you can, and then share that with others. Make sure that we all remember the impact and the significance of that particular decision. That's all, Madam President.
Thank you. Ms. Stewart Campbell.
So the two committees that I attended were policy, and Ms. Whiteman and Mr. Munoz covered that really well in everything that we did in our policy meeting. The second is Head Start policy, Head Start committee. And I have a few things that I was requested to share with the board on behalf of Ms. Tanner, who is the principal at Head Sharp and Pine Ridge Prep. So we began the 4th year of our 5th year continuation grant on November 1st. And this year, Head Start has been selected for a Focus Area 2 federal review, as well as a class, in all caps, is an acronym. And this isn't due to any issue, like any concern that they've been selected. It's just that the last review was 6 years ago. So the cycle has just now come back around. And they don't know when these reviews are going to take place, but they will get a 45-day notice. Okay, so these 2 reviews. The first one is the Focus Area 2 review. What is that? Just briefly, the Focus Area 2, its purpose is to provide an opportunity for individual grant recipients to demonstrate their effectiveness in implementing a high-quality program for children and families served over the course of their grant cycle. And this will determine if the grant recipients, so Sheldon Head Start, if the grant recipients are meeting the requirements of the Head Start program. So I'm sure they will do great. And the second review is the class review. And the class review is so this acronym stands for Classroom Assessment Scoring System, and it's an observation tool used to analyze and assess the effectiveness of interactions between children and teachers in center-based preschool classes, like Sheldon Head Start. So they opted for the video option because they have the technology, because we have such an amazing technology department. So they opted to do the video technology, and because 12 of their 13 classrooms are going to receive this class review. And the last thing that Ms. Tanner wanted me to share with everyone is that they have heard from other programs that testing for lead in the water is a big push during reviews this year at Head Starts, and that they've already completed this process and are negative for lead in the water. So that is very good news. And the last piece I wanted to say, Dr. Brombrink mentioned relationships, which made me think about the legislative meeting that we had today with our lobbyist, so Mr. Edwards. So I was able to attend that, and I know there were quite a few people on this Zoom call. So, and I know there were some board members as well, and Ms. Whiteman, and something that Mr. Edwards said that is really going to stick with me is he said relationships, and he really urged us all to just introduce ourselves to our legislators. He said just that little thing is actually a really big thing. Just give them a call, shoot them an email, introduce yourself, and that will help us advocate better. And he also shared how it's going to be he was pretty blunt. It's going to be a tough legislative session for education. So to brace ourselves and advocate all we can. And we got some good ideas on how we can do that. And we are very lucky to have him, because are we not the only district in Kansas? Is that right? In Shawnee County? In Shawnee County to have their own lobbyist. So anyway, that was a pleasure to attend. And I believe we're going to get weekly updates from him as well during the session.
So I have been dropping in on the calendar committee meetings, and they have accomplished creating some calendars that will be presented to us in the near future. When I think of our tech committee, I'm not sure that our board has actually thanked Mr. Gowan for the city push that you created to get computers in the hands and internet into the hands of all people in the city of Topeka. And I know that I think you've stepped away from that committee at this time. But many of us have been on committees that nothing ever really happens. It's just a talking point all the time. But congratulations on being one of the very first members on that, bringing that to the attention of the community and getting that accomplished. And we're very proud of the efforts that you have made for many, many of our families and our grandparents, et cetera. Thank you for that. Shana Early Learning Academy received 2 anonymous donations for our little friend Zoe for a buddy bench. And I wanted to thank them. I know that they're remaining anonymous, but we understand the love and care that you are providing for many by doing this. So thank you. A couple of us attended the data walk for the city. We were invited to look at data around our Topeka Public School data, our community data, and a lot of resource people were there that help our community. And it was just an opportunity to walk around and look at all of that data and have those discussions around that with all the resources, and hopefully come away with one thing that we would like to push. And of course, I came away with one, and I'll be talking to Dr. Anderson about that. But it was a very great meeting, and they hope to have more to help push us forward. One of the things, the information they gave us that was very striking to me was that in our district, east of Washburn University, all the way out to the end of our district, is one of the poorest zip codes in the United States. And so that really gives us the challenge and also help us understand the wonderful things that we're doing for people that are in that area and trying to give them that opportunity, that step up for with public education. So, and I also want to thank our district, because our district was evidently a big part in presenting, getting that data together, and they helped in that data walk. And so kudos to our district for being those leaders. Go Highland Park, they're playing for a position for state. And so we want to encourage them. And I also, Spark Wheel, which used to be Communities and Schools, has a Future Now or Financial Now program that they're always looking for volunteers to work in the high schools to help students understand what it means to run a true life budget around their information that they're given as an adult. And so if you have time to do that, it's a great time to interact with our students. And they're looking for people for Topeka High next Wednesday, Thursday, and Highland Park High School the week after that, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you have the opportunity to volunteer, to show up that morning, and they will give you an assignment. I believe we need to go to an executive session. And so I am looking for a motion for a short executive session.
I move the Board of Education of USD 501 recess into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss confidential personnel matters to protect the privacy of the individuals being discussed pursuant to the personnel exception in the Kansas Open Meetings Act. The board will return to open session at 7:28 in the boardroom. Dr. Anderson, Mr. Dick, and the executive staff are invited into executive session.
Can I have a second for that motion, Mr. Munoz? And may we have a vote? Thank you.
Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
Vote by hand. Thank you.
Unanimous.